Hey guys, welcome back to Vanguard Motor Sales. I'm Greg, and I'm standing in front of a 1969 Mark III. The car is amazing, and you're gonna love checking it out. So go to our website at vanguardmotorsales.com. We're gonna put it on the lift so you can see how nice the bottom side is. We're gonna pop the hood, see what's making the power. We're gonna look at that red interior. It is sharp as can be. You're gonna love it, guys. So go to the website at vanguardmotorsales.com. We're gonna pop the hood and fire it up for you now. '69 model, man, she's beautiful. Now the chrome looks like it's original to the car, and it's got a great shine to it. It's in beautiful shape. That grille looks good, the hood fits awesome. It's got the fold down headlights, all the trim up here, everything looks beautiful. Love the hubcaps too, the wide whites, the wheel lip moldings look good, the rocker moldings look great. Vinyl top's in beautiful shape. Now the door handle also looks original to the car, and it's in beautiful shape. That baby's 1969 model. All the moldings here look good, and check out the interior. I believe this interior is original to the car. What beautiful shape it's in. 1969, guys. Don't forget that. This thing was so well kept throughout the years. It's amazing. Look at that dash. Look at the steering wheel. Look at all the chrome there, and the lenses on the gauges and the faces on the gauges, the dash pad itself, the upholstery on the seats, the seat belts, and look at that back seat. That back seat looks like a big old leather couch, man. I'll tell you what, you need a big screen TV back there and watch a couple football games. Look at the headliner, beautiful shape. This car's amazing, guys. And look at these door jambs. Everybody knows I'm hung up on door jambs. Well, you know what? That tells a story on the car, and look right there, Mark III, guys. We're gonna grab the keys here so we can check out the trunk. Look down that big long quarter panel. Paint work looks great. The chrome on the back bumper, again, is original to the car. There's one scuff way down here at the bottom, but the chrome is in beautiful shape. 1969 chrome here, guys. This car was amazingly kept throughout the years. This baby's almost as old as me. Look inside the trunk there. Beautiful. They got they've added a fire extinguisher in there. I don't believe that's factory. All the gutters here are all nice and clean. That might actually be the original weather strip there on the trunk too. The lips on the trunk look good. When you look down the side of the car, she's straight as can be. Now at Vanguard Motor Sales, we own all of our inventory here, so we spend the time to check it out before we buy it. We've got about 240 cars in stock, and we own every one of them. We are not a consignment dealer, so you can bet we spend the time to check them out. Now I'm involved in buying every one of the cars here at Vanguard, and this is one of my favorites. My dad couldn't ever stop talking about these Lincolns. That's all I remember is Lincoln, Lincoln, Lincoln. So you know what? You're getting my 35 plus years of experience helping you pick out your dream car.
All right, guys, this is the 1969 Mark III Lincoln we're taking out for a little cruise here. Really, really smooth, as all Lincolns generally are. You can see we got a functional speedometer, oil pressure gauge is doing something. We got us a fuel gauge that looks like it's working. Temperature's coming up in the thing. It's been actually idling for quite a while, and this is all we're reading on the temperature gauge, so I'm assuming that it probably runs pretty cool. We do have a big electric fan out there too with some radiator upgrades, which of course doesn't surprise me at all. Something else I'd like to point out, the AM radio is doing AM radio stuff, and if you're wondering, that is what the ignition sounds like, but it does have an actual aftermarket radio inside the dash or inside the glove box as well that works perfectly fine. And this could be this is just RMF interference that's doing this right here. That could even be fixed if you'd like, so that you can have AM radio stuff happening too, as well as your aftermarket radio. Horn seems to be working fine on it. Turn signal works there. Turn signal's working on this side as far as the indicators and the dash go. Dash clock is working. Let's test the self-cancel function. Sure enough, works perfectly fine. It actually moved. Oh wow! It actually really moves out for as big of a car as it is. It's actually pretty peppy. It does have some performance upgrade under the hood there, so that probably explains that. But that is actually surprisingly fast, and I didn't even put it down all the way. Of course, we're in the subdivision here, slowing down a little bit for this truck. But yeah, this thing is actually like surprisingly nice. We do have looks like a functional. I was feeling some AC going on there a little bit earlier, which is really, really cool. At least it was blowing nice and chilly. Let's see here if we got some, I'm not gonna mess with it now, but I know that the blower motor indeed does work on all of its speeds. We do have wipers going on here, if I can find, there we go. Wipers work on this thing. They park just as they should. Interior is really nice and quiet in here. I mean, the steering wheel's nice and straight. You know, you can take my hand off the wheel. There's nothing that I shouldn't see here. Coming up to a stop here. Perfect, I love it. Turn signal on. Gonna make our left here. So basically this is one of the cars that you're gonna have to just come in and drive in order to fall in love with it, because I guarantee if you do come in and drive it, you are gonna end up liking it. This is one of those ones where that really is the testament to how nice this car is when you actually go out and take it for a little drive, because that's when a car really shows what it is. And I mean, this one's nice. I can tell you right now, I'm driving it. So if you'd like to have an appointment set up, make sure to give Tom a call. We'll make sure it's here at our building, and we'll take you for a cruise around the block in it. We'll let you drive it. And something else we're about ready to do now is we're going to go and throw it up on the hoist. We're going to take a look at the underside of the car. I'm going to also show you a lot of the performance upgrades underneath the hood there, which explains why it just got on it as good as it did back there. Coming on the brakes again, hand off the wheel, perfect. Kind of pulling in here. Hit the bumps here. That also is another big telltale sign of how healthy the car is suspension-wise. When I go to hit that bump right there, if you hear a bunch of clacking going on, it needs attention. I didn't hear anything, but maybe the tire's giving. This thing is in really nice shape. Gonna kind of sneak around here. We got a Torino or a old Ford out here running, sneaking around. So that's it, guys. We're gonna go and throw it up on the hoist, and stay tuned. Okay, guys, this is the underside of our Lincoln Continental. The bumper on the car looks to be original on it, you know what I mean? You can tell just by the way that the chrome looks. However, you can tell that it has been stored very properly. The chrome doesn't really look to be pitting or anything like that. The only thing I do see is it looks like it has been nicked at some point right there. There's a small spot here and here. But outside of that, it actually is in pretty good shape. Outside of that, it looks like this is all the factory type undercoating that's underneath these cars here. Every time I've seen them, I've seen this type of undercoating on them. I believe it to be the way that they came from the factory. And everything looks nice and solid here. Drop downs look really good on this thing. It does retain the original wheel well liner type thing here on both sides. The exhaust looks to be relatively recent on this car, and by recent I mean pretty darn new. It doesn't even look to have even surface rust on it at this point, which I'm very, very happy to see. This here is a Ford, not a Ford 9-inch, but a Ford 9 3/8. This is a bigger rear end that they put in a lot of the Lincolns and such. Bigger ring gear, bigger pinion, all around just a bigger, little heavier duty rear end. This thing, actually, I checked the tag on this, and the tag lines up to be correct for a 1969 Lincoln, which is very cool. And it has the original gear ratio in it of right around 280 to 1, 273 to 1, something right in that area. So very, very nice, very cool to see the original rear end in this car. Drum brakes on either side. At Vanguard, we are drum brake experts. We know exactly how these are supposed to be put together. When you get this car, the drum brakes will be right in this car. Very often with modern shops, you don't deal with these very often. We deal with them more than we deal with disc brakes. So we're very, very familiar with them. You're going to get the right drum brakes for your automobile. Something else I'd like to point out, it does have an electric fuel pump on it. I can see right up in there that it has the electric fuel pump with another filter on up in there. A recent addition along with it looks like a little bit of a new gas line going up to at least a certain point right there. Whip hose looks like it's in good shape. Mufflers, of course, been replaced with the exhaust. Original tight mufflers, I'd like to point out. Frame rail, or frame, I guess the boxes back here look like they're in really good shape. I guess the torque boxes of this frame look like they're in excellent shape. Looks like the parking brake actually is hooked up and actually adjusted properly, which is a good thing. Something else I'd like to point out, frame rail even continuing to look good all the way up through here. Nice fit and finish on it. Looks like the floors all look to be original on the car. I don't see any patchwork, at least through here, not over here either. Looks like, once again, with like the factory type undercoat that I'm seeing underneath this thing, all good stuff. U-joints feel nice and tight. Of course, we check all that stuff in our inspection. The recent exhaust that I was talking about does have an H-pipe in it. Moving forward to that, trans mount looks good. This is a Ford C6 transmission, for those of which you do not know. This would be a 3-speed automatic transmission, no overdrive. However, with the rear end ratio of about 273, 280 to 1, this thing hops right up on the freeway, no problem. That's how they achieved the high drivability back then in the day. Would be big motor, lots of torque, 3-speed transmission with a relatively freeway friendly gear. I believe this transmission to be the original one for the car. The previous owner has said that to us, not to mention that the casting code there, I should say the casting number on the side there, lines up to be original for the car. So all that stuff seems to line up. Like I said, I believe it to be the original one. Moving forward to that, the boxes here for the frame once again continue to look good here and over here. Moving forward to that. Now this cross member here looks like it's in excellent shape. Doesn't look like there has ever been a jack under here, and that's probably because you need a pretty long reach jack to get at this from the front of this car, considering how big it is. So no big surprise there. Outside of that, this is the underside of our 460 Ford big block. We're going to get to that in just a second. Something else I'd like to point out, which is really cool on these Lincolns, this is actually the power steering pump that they've put on the crankshaft under here, which is like really, really cool. You often see that on a lot of these luxury cars, and I mean, it's just a very interesting idea. You don't often see it, and just something really cool to point out. Front end, of course, we check out all of our front ends on all these cars. It feels nice and tight. That's where you check your idle arm, is doing that right there. You give it the side to side, jack it up to your ball joints. Everything checked out just fine on this car, and everything looks to be of serviceable type. So everything is greasable. Of course, we grease all of our front ends and stuff like that before they leave, just to make sure that everything stays nice and tight for you when you get the car. All the bushings here and these look like they're in good shape, both here and there. Sway bar end links look to be relatively new, along with the bushings that go in them. Front whip hoses, I can actually see tags on them right here, implying that they had been replaced just recently. Disc brakes in the front, of course, power disc brakes. It is a Lincoln, and that's all stuff that we check out. Make sure you got good pad life. The rotors are healthy. Motor mounts look like they're in good shape. Someone's got a K&N oil filter on it. Once again, it does have a couple of performance upgrades that we're going to get to in just a second. Lower end of the radiator support here looks like it's in good shape. I can stick my finger up in here and it feels wonderful. There's no dirt. I mean, you can look at my fingers, no dirt, no nothing here. So all good stuff, all good things that you want to see when you're going to look at a car, is you need to look underneath it. And this thing seems to be a good, honest old car, and that's what we like to see here. So let's go take a look at wheels and tires, then we'll get to the 460 under the hood. All right, guys, for wheels, we have the original hubcap here on the steel wheel. This is 235/70. This is a white wall tire, but this is basically just a BF Goodrich radial TA. That's all this is. It's just a white wall version of which, and it actually says radial TA on the back of it. Like I said, good looking hubcaps. And something else I really like to point out while I'm under here is this car has got really nice body lines on it. As you can see, it comes swooping up through here, and the rear is even cooler than this. Paint looks nice up through here. Looks to be very original-esque. It very well might have been repainted at one point, but whoever did a very nice job on it. That all being said, let's take a look at the rear. All right, guys, back here we got the same size, 235/70 R15, which means you can rotate these. Same good-looking wheel on the back, which means you know there's no size difference or anything like that. Like I said, perfectly rotatable. Something else I'd like to point out is back here. This is my favorite body line on the car. I'm a big fan of the 60s Fords, and they all seem to have that sort of shape to them. And that's what makes these old cars cool, is these fantastic, nice, sharp body lines. Something else I'd like to point out while I'm back here is this chrome trim here. All of this is in really nice shape. There's no dents on it or anything like that. It feels like up in here, this is a lot of the time where the rust would start, right up in here, especially down here low in these quarters here. Everything is in fantastic shape on this car. Everything I like to see. Something else too I always point out when I see it is you can see all of our pinch welds, or excuse me, spot welds, all here with this quarter skin, kind of goes over to the drop down here, and you can see all that. The definition is still there, which implies that the body of the car is very, very healthy. Once again, you saw the underside. It's just a good, honest old car. Let's go check out the 460 under the hood. Okay guys, this is the 460 that was propelling us down the straightaway. This thing, like I said, 460 cubic inches. The Lincoln, this would be, the first debut for this motor would be in these Lincolns right here. This is when these engines first came out to replace the MEL motors and the FEs, and that's what this engine's role was, and it did it very, very well, very successfully, and these motors were built up into the 80s. Now, this particular engine, the previous owner stated that this is the original engine for the car. I do see a C9 VE or C9 AE, if I'm not mistaken, or VE casting number on this, which is implicatory of it being a 1969 motor. However, the VIN code I for whatever reason, could not find on the back of the driver's cylinder head, which is typically where they're stamped. However, everything seems to line up for it to be the correct engine for the car. So, I mean, you've been given the details. That's what we see. I'd say that it more than likely is the original engine for the car. It looks to be original. Outside of all that stuff, like I said, there are some performance modifications that have been done. We do have a MSD distributor in this thing. I do believe this is the type that you do not need the box to run. So like the ProBillet RDR or ready to run distributors, it does have a set of matching MSD Streetfire wires on it. I can see that the manifolds are painted up very nicely. Engine's got a nice paint job on it. It looks to be an original type intake manifold. It does have a Holley 4-barrel sitting on top of that. Now that 4-barrel is equipped with vacuum secondaries, straight boosters, and an electric choke, all of which work flawlessly. And you know, all of course contribute to the good pull that this thing will actually produce when you decide to put the hammer down, especially when those secondaries kick in. You really feel it. It does look to be a recent edition coil. I'd like to also point out too that it looks like a lot of the vacuum stuff and a lot of the original options for the car all still are here. No one has monkeyed with it too much. They've added a couple things without taking away a lot of the good things that makes it a Lincoln. One thing they did add is they took the fans off too, or the big mechanical cooling fan off, and decided to put in 2 electric fans here with what looks like a performance radiator here. This doesn't look to be the original type radiator to be in the car. Something else I'd like to point out while we're talking about cooling is in the glove box where I'd mentioned it does have that aftermarket radio. It does indeed have a aftermarket temperature gauge too. The original temp gauge does work, but it has a second one for you, just in case you really want to know what it's running at, because this is going to be the kind of car you're going to take out to car shows and cruise. It's always a good idea to know what you're running at. Something else I'd like to point out, looks like it has a relatively recent AC compressor in it. It does have a Motorcraft belt on it too, which I think is cool. And that probably contributes to why the air conditioning blows so frosty cold. Of course, it has power steering. It's a Lincoln, no big surprise. Power brakes, Lincoln, no big surprise. Outside of, Motorcraft battery too. Also, you got to keep your Ford. Outside of all of that stuff, it looks to be just all honest, original type stuff in here. Hasn't been monkeyed with, and that is a testament in itself. You know, a lot of the time when people start messing with things, that's an opportunity for things to go wrong. And I like to see when cars are more original than not. And this car, when modified, was modified tastefully with just a couple of performance upgrades, and that's about it. It even still has the factory undercoat, or I should say not undercoating, but sound deadening under the hood. I mean, overall, just very, very nice. It maintains a lot of its original stuff in here. It's even still got the plaque underneath the hood, which I think is very, very cool. Overall, just a really nice car. This is going to be one that you're going to want to come in and drive. You'll end up falling in love with it. So make sure to make an appointment with Tom if you want to go ahead and drive this thing. Call Tom with the number below, and let's drive this Lincoln. That way you can park it in your driveway. That's it, guys.